everyone, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video. I could not be more excited to create this video because I'm going to be talking about the story which I really wanted to read. I wanted to see for ages but just never got the chance, and the story is called The Memoirs of Geisha. I really wanted to read this book for so long, but I just never got a chance to come across it. But when I was in my last visiting of charity shop in Scotland, I found this book for like £1, and you seriously cannot imagine my excitement when I saw the book here. But I never got a chance to read it until now, so this book actually traveled with me from Scotland all the way to here, and now I just finished reading it. And also I just watched the film which is now on Netflix. Highly recommend you will watch it, but about that later. And yeah, I thought that it might be the perfect opportunity to try to do my first ever comparison video between the book and film, because as I mentioned a couple times before, it's really something I like to do, but I never made any sort of video like this, and this is the first video I'm going to do. So yeah, if you will like the video, please let me know in the comments if you would like to see more videos like this, and yeah, let's just do this. But first let me tell you what the story is about. So the main character here is Chiyo, a young girl who is growing up with her sister Satsu in a little fisherman village near Kyoto with her parents, but they are very poor and her mother is nearly dying. One day a man appears at their door and he proposed to buy both girls and take them with him to Kyoto, where they are supposed to become a geisha. However, because Satsu is not that pretty as Chiyo, she will end up in prostitution house instead, and Chiyo needs to go to her new okiya by herself. Right there she meets mother and grandmother, who are basically running the whole okiya, as well as meeting Hatsumomo, who is this one of the most popular geisha in whole Kyoto. However, she's quite nasty person as well, and she is basically trying to turn Chiyo's life into a misery because she is very jealous of her, especially jealous of her eyes, because Chiyo has this really beautiful and special and unusual eyes, sort of like bluish gray color, which is very unusual for Japan. Chiyo feels quite lonely there, but she also meets Pumpkin, who becomes her only friend there, and she is this young girl as Chiyo herself, and they are both trying to become a geisha. One day Chiyo manages to find her sister in the prostitution house, and they both decide that they want to run away together. However, because of the unsuccessful escape, Chiyo will hurt herself and she never ends up living with her sister. Plus, mother is so angry with her that she was trying to escape that she basically banished her from becoming a geisha and sort of turns her into her slave. Very soon after, Chiyo meets in town a chairman who is the first person who was actually kind to her, and so she starts to grow this affection towards him despite him being quite older, but he was the first person who was really kind to her. Soon after, Mameha, who is another popular geisha in Kyoto, actually even more popular one than Hatsumomo, will appear at Chiyo's okiya, and she proposed to mother that she will adopt Chiyo to become her younger sister, because that's how young girl can become a geisha as well. Besides going to school for geisha, she also needs an older sister, someone who is already well-known geisha, in order to learn from her and become her apprentice in a way. And Mameha proposed that this is how the Chiyo can pay her debts sooner, because she really believes that with her beauty she can get her dana earlier, because Dana is someone who sort of like become a patron of geisha, and he is basically paying her quite a lot of money regularly in order to spend time with her. So after this, when mother agrees to Chiyo becoming younger sister of Mameha, Chiyo will start to go to school and tries to become a geisha along the Pumpkin. And from this moment the story is mostly about the competition between Pumpkin and Chiyo to become a geisha and who will get the first Dana earlier. However, it's mostly really the competition of Hatsumomo and Mameha. When Chiyo manages to reach her goal to become a geisha, she will change her name into Sayuri. And also during this time we meet the character of Nobu in the story. Nobu is a friend of chairman who kinda grows a big affection towards Chiyo, or well, Sayuri now, but he suffered from an injury and half of his face basically burned. And although he is very affectionate towards her, it seems that Sayuri's heart belongs to someone else. So this story is also about love, and it's a love story, but also it mirrors the situation during the World War II in Japan, and also sort of like the occupation of Japan in later years. So that was the story there, and now let's tackle the book and let's tackle the film because I'm way too excited. So firstly, some information about the book. The book was published in 1997 and it was written by Arthur Golden, and this book, when it was published, was actually the bestseller for over 50 weeks since it was published. And what is interesting about this book is that the author used the real places and real names of the district, so it's not just the fictional places created for the book, but it's actually using the real places in Japan. And it's a book which has approximately 500 pages, but it took me I mean, yeah, it took me quite long to finish it because I was busy with other books as well, but I believe that once I would sit down to it and I would actually have the time, I would just read it within like day or two because it was really amazing. And comparing to the film, which was directed by Rob Marshall in 2005, and one of the producers was Steven Spielberg, and this film was actually nominated for 6 Academy Awards and it won 3 of them. But there was slight controversy about the film because despite being a Japanese story set in Japan, most of the cast, like the majority of the cast, including the leading actress, was Chinese, which was quite strange even for me. When I saw the film, I'm like, I know these people from Chinese films, so I'm not quite sure why they made this decision. However, that's one thing that was sort of controversial. Other than that, the film was a huge success, and yeah, now I'm gonna be talking about what was the same from the book and what was the different in the film. I would say that one of the biggest differences when it comes to book is that in the book, obviously, there is so much more space, so there was also more time to describe Chio's childhood pretty well, and that's something I was a little bit missing into the story in the film, because in the book you can also get the sense of how she was spending time with her sister and also these lovely descriptions of the village and everything else. But obviously, because the book has 500 pages and because of the screen time, I mean, the film was 2 hours 25 minutes, so that's approximately maybe over 150 pages or something like that. So obviously you have a little less space for writing the script rather than book, but still I would say that this was one thing that was missing there the most, but still it wasn't something that would be damaging for the film in any sort of way. Also, another thing I would say was different is in terms of characters, because for example in the book the character of grandmother was very important and she got quite a lot of space comparing to film, where she was, I think it was only one scene where she appeared, but she never came across as very important person in the film, and I think that her duties or her position was mostly transferred only to mother. So while in the book it would be 2 of them who would be making the biggest decision and have some sort of relationship to Chio or then later Sayuri, in film it was all sort of like portrayed in the character of mother, again in order to save space and save the time. And then another one, when it comes to characters, I would say that for me, when I was reading the book, it really came across that the character of Nobu is sort of a more important to the story, and I felt like he got even more space in the book, but in the film I felt like it was the other way around, that the chairman was in the film since the very beginning, and he also felt like he is a more important character to the story. So that was something really interesting. But yeah, I'm not gonna tell you any more to those characters, but those are sort of like main differences, I would say. But other than that, I would say that the book in general feels really more slow paced, but not necessarily in a negative way, because as I said, you get here so much more descriptions, but they are beautiful descriptions. I mean, I really do love the writing style in this book, because there are so many beautiful descriptions, and I had to, I mean, I do not do these sort of annotations very often. I did it maybe once in the Threadneedle book, but here I was like, okay, I need to have some sort of notes, because the sentences were written there very beautifully, almost poetically, and I think that for some people it might have been a little too much, but I enjoyed it. And the truth is that sometimes I felt that this is a little bit too slow paced for my taste as well, especially when there was time when Chio already became a geisha and she would go with Hatsumomo to different tea house to entertain men. Sometimes the conversation with them were parts which I would slightly skip, because they did not really move the story forward in any sort of way, like majority of this conversation, because some of them were important, but some of them were mostly about sort of like, you know, just the dialogues, which I really did not feel they are necessary. But on the other hand, to the film, some of the film really missed details, and I would say that this is the biggest difference maybe for me, and that's why I would recommend you to read the book first before watching the film, because I felt like in the book you really have beautifully explained and you get all the information about the traditions and culture of Japan, and also about the whole geisha world. And that's something I really do love about this book, because besides giving you amazing story, it also portrays the whole world of Japan, and well, the old Japan when the geisha were something really special, and you get to explain how they were tying up their kimonos and why and what are the parts of their kimono and how is the way they had to sleep, and it was all because the way they had their hair done, and just all this information that I really missed in the film. But again, I do feel like you don't need them necessarily in the film, but when I was watching the film, it really makes me feel special in a way. So I would really recommend you to read the book first, because you will get there a lot of information which you don't get across in the movie. But it's not like you're missing them necessarily, but it really makes your experience so much better, because when you have these beautiful shots of Chio putting on her kimono, from reading the book you can understand a little bit more from this process, if that makes sense. So that's, I would say, one of the differences, that while the book is obviously longer with much more details and descriptions and explanations, which you don't necessarily need in film, and that what makes the film kinda more faster paced, and I feel like it's really good. But then here are the special information, and it really makes you feel like you know something more. So that's why I would really recommend you to read the book first. On the other hand, when it comes to film, I must say I really loved the whole aesthetics and costumes and the setting. It was beautiful, and it's also one of the Oscar it won, one of 4 costumes, and one was for I believe it was set design, and it's just truly beautiful. The beginning of the film is really dark, especially when it comes to colors, because you have all these dark, shadowy, greenish, black, brown colors, and it really makes you feel that sort of fear that Chio felt when she was basically taken away from her house with her sister, which is something that in a book, obviously, it's also a dramatic situation, but the film portrayed this, I believe, very, like, even better. When I was watching the film, I really got a goosebumps from the scene, whether when I was reading it my imagination didn't let me to go into such horrible scenarios or such a difficult imagination, you know, if that makes sense. Overall, I would say that the both are absolutely amazing. Book is brilliant in its own longer way, and the film is amazing in its own way as well. And I really gave this book 5 stars, and then I would give 5 stars to the film as well, because actors were amazing. One thing that was also different, but I'm not gonna be talking about it very much because I don't want to spoil anything, as I just said, but in the book at the end, because the ending is slightly different for these 2 mediums, because in the book you sort of get explained what happened later to Sayuri and how her life developed even after some events, but then in the film you basically get to the end in a way that that's it. Like, after the scene in the movie, you don't know what will happen to Chio later on with her life and how the story goes on, but you get this sort of information in the book, but not in the film. So there would be only one thing, but pretty much I would say that this is one of the most accurate adaptation I ever seen, because I personally I don't like very much when there is an amazing book and someone turns it into the film but they change like 90% of it. I don't like it. I'm like, if you want to do different story, then write different story, but just don't, you know, change the whole book. And this, I would say, the only difference, actually, yeah, there was one more difference. In the film there is a scene when Hatsumomo and Sayuri got into a fist fight, literally over the handkerchief, and that resolves in Okiya setting on fire, which is something it wasn't in the book, and I really did not find it necessary to have this in a film, because there was also something different happening in the book regarding this scene. But other than this, the film was really great accuracy when it comes to book, and I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend you to watch the film and read the book. I would say personally try to read the book first, because as I said, you have those additional information, but I think that there is not that much difference if you would see the film first, because later on when you read the book you can have very vivid images from the film. So yes, that's it, my friends. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what is your relationship to this story. Have you seen the film? Did you read the book? Did you like this video? Is there anything you would like to add? Do you maybe agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Just anything. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and maybe subscribe if you are still considering to do so. It would be lovely to have you here, and I will see you with another video very soon. Take care. Bye!